managed in ABAP dictionary. Remember that. Okay, so what you do actually, you create and manage the data definitions. Like if you have to create a table, okay, let's say this is your database, okay, and you want, because you cannot directly access the database, right? You would need a screen, you would need a screen using which you should be able to create the entries in this database. You should be able to create the entries in this database. So that screen can be called as SE11. And using this SE11 things, you can do what? You create the entries in the database. Okay, so this is your database. Now what happens in the database? You do not create the entries directly, like you will be segregating it, so you do not create entries directly in the database. You rather create a table, because see, this is like very large space of database, so like hundreds of terabytes. And let's say if you are creating a record of an employee, will you save the record of employee directly in this ocean of data? No, you will first kind of divide it into something, and then you will create your things, like you will create your entry in that case. So let's say this is your one table. Okay, so this is your table, let's say one table, and this is, let's say, your another table. So you do what? You rather divide the database into different sections, and in the sections you will have database tables. We'll see that even database tables are not directly created, because searching a table also in this large, let's say very large ocean, is also difficult. Okay, that is also difficult. So you first create what? You first create sections in the database, and then you create your tables in the database. This is why are we doing this way? This is just to improve the performance of database. Imagine storing one entry, let's say, which would be some bytes only, not even KB, not even kilobytes, some bytes only, searching few bytes in the space of hundreds of terabytes, right? It will be too difficult. It will be too time consuming actually, for searching that one record, searching one byte in the ocean of hundreds of terabytes. But if you narrow down your search in a way that you have certain sections, and in those sections you have table, and in that table if you have entry, so you do not have to search the whole ocean. You'll have to first go and search that section, and then you will search in that particular table. So let's say this is particular table. So you are kind of doing what? You are managing your database efficiently using what? Different sections and different tables. So these sections and these tables are created using this transaction SE11. Now understood the importance of SE11? It is not just for creating your database, data types. It is for creating tables, and in the tables also you do what? You kind of place those tables in the dedicated space of database. Okay, so database is divided into, let's say, few sections. We'll learn that in this unit only, and then those sections will again have different tables. So in those tables only your data will go, and when you have to create the entry, it will go and save that in that table only. When you have to bring it back, it will be the same way. So if you remember from our very second section, we had learned what? SAP architecture. So as if you remember, I told you SAP, if you remember SAP architecture, it will be very easy for you to understand the concepts going forward. So SAP architecture is a very important topic. Okay, so what happens? You have what? In the middle of this database and your GUI, you have what? Application server. So you know that the data has to be brought, for any processing to happen, you have to bring the data from database server to application server. Why? Because your execution actually happens where? Your execution happens on application server. Getting it? So your actual execution will happen where? At application server. So if there's anything that need to be processed, you need to first bring the data to application server and then do the processing. This is true for SAP ECC. Okay, this is true for SAP ECC. Remember that. So in the end of this training, we have few sessions on ABAP on HANA also. So this concept will kind of change something like somewhat there. Okay, we'll learn that, don't worry about that. So this process, this request is coming from SE11. Let's say this is GUI, right? Presentation server. So you are saying you want to retrieve the data, or you want to bring the data from database. So that request will go to application server, and then the application server will send the request to database. The server will respond and give it the entry back to application server, and you can process it, and whatever required format of output you will design and say show it on again the presentation server. So this is how the complete cycle goes. So these are nothing but the tables. Okay, these are nothing but these yellow sections are what you can say them, these are the tables. So these tables actually are used to save the entries or create the entries. Okay, so let's say TB1 kind of thing, TB2, and TB3. So there are, let's say there will be thousands of tables, but just to understand, say these are the tables in database server. So you manage all these database objects. These are what tables are also what database. This is a database object, right? Tables. And to create table you need other database objects also. We'll learn that. Okay, when we'll create table you will understand that what and all you need to create a table. So you need certain fields, you need data elements, you need domains. What are these technically? We'll understand that. Okay, so you do all of these things, creating a table, maintaining the entries in the table also is done using SE11 transaction. So if you have to create table, you have to go to SE11. If you have to maintain the entries, allow the maintenance of entries in the table, then also you'll have to reach to the same transaction. If you have to see what are the entries in the table, okay, what are the entries saved in this table, then again you'll have to go to SE11. So SE11 is what? SE11 is the data dictionary transaction. It is used to, as it says, it is used to not just create but manage in a ABAP dictionary. It is used to create and manage the data definitions. Okay, understood the first line now? It describes the logical structure of objects used in application development. Okay, so whatever logical structure, let's say you want 10 fields in the table. So what should be the first field? Let's say if you are creating a table for storing employee records, so you'll say the first field is going to be employee ID, then the first name of the employee, then last name of the employee, then the gender of the employee, then let's say the department, communication address, mobile number, designation. All of these things are what? This is the well designed structure. Like you have got fields and each field is given one proper sequence, right? First is going to be this field, second is going to be this one, the length of each field, and all of those things are nothing but what you are giving, what the proper structure. So it describes the mapping of data to the underlying relational database in the tables and views. Okay, we'll learn what are tables, what are views, how to create and manage them. It is system dependent interface to the database. Okay, it is what? It is kind of an interface. So just this is very important word actually. I'll just copy the same figure here. Let's see. Sorry. Okay, give me a second. All right, so let's say this is your database and this is your GUI. Okay, this one is screen, GUI screen. So this is your monitor or your laptop, whatever it is. This is your GUI screen. Okay, now from your GUI you are accessing the database via transaction called SE11. Okay, so your GUI, you are saying SE11. So when you, as soon as you hit SE11, it kind of opens a door for you to access the database, right? SE11 is doing what? It's kind of opening a door for you. It's kind of giving you an interface. Okay, interface to the database, right? It is allowing you to manage your database objects, right? Database operations. You can create the entries, you can manage the entries, you can delete, you can change. So all of these things you are able to do what? Using SE11 transaction. So at least SE11 transaction is also called as an interface between your SAP GUI and your database, because it is doing what? It is connecting these two. It is providing some interface, it is providing some way to connect to database. Okay, it's a mean to connect to database. That is why it is also called as an interface to database. Getting it? So it is system dependent interface to the database. It is what? It is a virtual database also. So you kind of see the entries, you kind of see the database tables here, you kind of see the data in the tables here only in SE11 only, but the data and the tables and everything is not stored in SE11. They are stored in database only. This is just virtual database. You can just see the data. Everything is managed here only. So what you do is actually when you create a table, okay, when you create the table, I'll explain this topic once more, but just remember, when you create a table in SE11 and you activate, it goes and creates exactly same table at database level also. So you will have a copy of database here, table, okay, not data, table, and a same table copy at database level also. So as soon as you'll say bring the records in this table, it will just go bring the table records and it will show you in SE11. It appears that the data is stored in SE11. No, the data is still saved in database only, but it just because it has a copy of data actually, so it will do what? It will just bring the data and show in SE11. So it is kind of called as virtual database, as in it doesn't store any data, but it appears to be having the data stored in same transaction. So when we'll practically see it, you will understand these lines actually. Okay, so it is also called as virtual database. It provides data for manipulation and processing. Yeah, obviously. So all of the data from database you can see and manage from your SE11. So you can do the processing also in SE11, and the transaction code is also obviously SE11 for data dictionary. Now let's see practical. What is it? What does it look like? We have already seen yesterday the interface of SE11 transaction. So the transaction is clear so far. So we'll go to transaction SE11. This SE11 transaction is, guys, very important, guys. Okay, this is very important transaction. ABAP dictionary, ABAP editor, and SE11. These are two of the most important transactions. Okay. All right. So you see, you can manage, you can do these many things. You can create these many data objects, data dictionary objects. Actually, these are called as data dictionary objects. So in total, there are 7 data dictionary objects: database tables, views, data types, type group, domain, search help, and lock object. We'll see every one of these. Okay, don't worry. But what are database tables? Database tables is nothing but obviously tables, right? Tables where you will store the data. Now this is not similar to table type. Table type is what? Table type is a mean or a way or date. Table type is what? It's a data type used to declare internal tables. Internal table is what? Internal table can hold your data during only runtime. But database table is what? Database table is something available at database level. So database is what? It's hard disk, and data at hard disk is not temporary. It is not just for runtime, right? So data in database tables are always persistent. Persistent means available for unless you delete it. So there are some standard tables. Now remember, what do you, whenever I'll say standard, I told you what does it mean? It means provided by SAP. So there are thousands of tables provided by SAP. So you may have to remember few names of the tables. Like when you create material. So when you raw materials, finished materials, because every company that manufactures something, they'll be dealing with the materials, right? If they're not service company, they'll be having some materials. So let's say we were considering the example of Tata Motors. So for Tata Motors, what will be the raw material? Raw material, let's say steel, right? And their finished product will be the car manufactured, right? So both are what? Both are material for them. So let's say you go to this table, all the materials when you create those are created in SAP, they go and get stored automatically in this table. Mara, the table name is MARA, Mara. So this is what general material data. Okay, this is what general material data. So complete material data is stored in this table, and this is how the table looks like. Okay, the table looks like in SAP. Okay, so this is the same screen you will use to kind of similar, very same screen you will use to create your own table also. So if you just see this table in a material data, material table is storing what the things like what is the material number, when was it created, who created it, when was it last changed. And remember one more thing in SAP, everything you do in SAP gets recorded somewhere. Recorded means record saved somewhere in the tables. Okay, so when you create a program also, the program name, the program things, everything gets stored in one table. Okay, who has changed it, when was it changed, everything gets recorded, because SAP is a fully auditable system. SAP provides fully auditable, because the people who work in industries like pharma industries and all, they need the system which can be fully audited. Okay, everything they are doing should have a record log kind of thing. What has been done so far, what are the changes, what was it previously, who changed it, when was it changed, everything gets recorded in SAP. Remember that. So even if you do a minor change in the table entries or in your program and save it, it just records that it was changed on so and so time and all of that. That is why you see it is created by whom, when was it changed, last changed by, who changed it, what was the change, everything like things like this automatically gets stored. You can't even control them. So whenever you'll open the transaction, you will change the material, you'll do any change, and you save it, you cannot stop it saving the log for your change entries. So it will automatically maintain the change log. So we were learning that for a table is what you need, what list of fields. So these are what list of fields. Do you see these are what list of fields, like material category, material type, what is the industry sector, what is the material group. All these are what fields related to material data, because this table stores what, this table stores the material data, material details. So all the fields related to material data will be available here in this table, and this has got 236 fields. Okay, 236 fields in the master master table only. So this is called as master table for material. So material master data is stored in MARA table. Okay, we'll learn this topic, we'll learn these things, what is master data, what is transactional data, what is other types of data in SAP. We'll learn that. Okay, don't worry, but just remember, this is the table for storing material master data. Okay, now these are the list of fields, these are the list of data elements. Do you see what is the column says? It says data element. So we'll learn this. So for any field to be added in a table, you have to maintain the data element also. We'll learn that. Okay, first we'll create data element and all of that. I just wanted to show you, this is how the interface, or this is how the screen looks like for a table. Okay, and if you have to see the content in the table, you will have this button. Do you see this button? Just click this button, it says content. Say content, you want to see the content in the table. Okay, this is the selection screen, you can say selection screen. We have learned that what is selection screen. Now just say execute. Do you see this report? See this means it is bringing, don't worry about the things I'm doing here. Okay, so this is bringing what data from the database. So these many material, these are the list of materials you have in database. Material number this, it was created and so date, this was the user, these are the details, this is the raw material, material category, material type, industry sector, all these things. This is what box material. Too many things have to be maintained for creating one material actually. So this is how the data in the table looks like. Okay, so let's go back. So you can do what? It is nothing but it is what? It's a virtual database. You can see the data, but the data is actually not stored in SE11 level. It is stored in the database only. It is just brought to SE11 screen and shown.